Weather is serious business in Flight Simulator 2020, and whilst in the real world it might make for mildly dull small talk, in the world of Sims it's a huge deal. Not only is it visually appealing when done right, especially at the level Microsoft have shown us, but it also has a massive impact on how realistic the simulator is. So yeah, weather is important. Recently, the development team went into more detail on precisely how they achieve this extremely accurate weather. So, to enable a large variety of weather on Earth, Asobo divided the world up into boxes. This allows them to represent different meteorological data points in each box. There are a lot of boxes, 250 million in fact. So each box stores weather data. This includes things that you would expect, such as rain and snow. It also includes pressure and humidity as well as many other things. These boxes are also layered, one on top of the other, 60 layers high, to allow for changing weather effects at high altitudes. This, of course, is especially important for clouds. Now, the weather system has been developed in partnership with a company called Meteo Blue, which was founded way back in 2006, and at this point has access to vast amounts of data on global weather patterns. There's actually a very interesting part of the video where the developer mentions that they were set no limits on the amount of data that Flight Simulator would use, and this is a fairly unique situation for games and simulators in general, as most games of course do have fairly strict limits when it comes to data. But the fact that huge volumes of data are both stored and processed remotely certainly opens up a lot of potential possibilities. Unfortunately, the developers didn't go into detail on precisely where the weather data is processed, but my assumption would be that it will be kept on Microsoft's Azure servers, and that Microsoft will then own the system that has been developed for Flight Simulator 2020. After all, the idea of creating an accurate, full representation of Earth along with forecastable weather patterns is a huge deal, and possibly something that Microsoft would want to use for other projects. But of course, it's also possible that this weather data may be coming directly from Meteo Blue servers. Now indeed, the weather in Microsoft Flight Simulator is forecastable. Whilst we know from a previous Discovery series that simmers can set their own desired weather whenever they want, they can also rely on real-world data. In all events, it sounds like these weather situations are generated from the ground up, using a predictive weather model that begins with a set number of data points and calculates them forwards in time in order to represent both local and global weather. It's an impressive system for sure, and one which the developer explains relies on many different prediction sets. Whilst each set can have a different outcome, thus a different prediction, machine learning is used to find the commonalities between all of these. The results really do speak for themselves. At Meteo Blue, the developer said that they've been working with Microsoft Flight Simulator for 2 years now, so clearly a lot of work has gone into this, the result of which seems to be one of the most, if not the most accurate weather prediction system and weather system that has ever been seen in any home simulator or game. Like I say, I suspect it's likely that Microsoft will have wider plans for much of this tech. Moving on, meanwhile, Asobo have released the patch notes for Alpha Build version 4 of the new Microsoft Flight Simulator, along with the patch notes which we can take a brief look at right here. So this update focuses very heavily on fixes. These are specifically for the 747 as well as the A320. With the Boeing 747 getting some cockpit visual updates, whilst both the 747 and the Airbus A320 have received some transversal fixes. The big addition for this build, however, is a new flight model. Now, I've noticed there's been a fair few comments on the internet over the past few months, with some people expressing concerns over the flight model and what they are noticing in some of the clips. It's worth keeping in mind that this is still an alpha build and that things will improve and change over time. Alpha version 4 very much illustrates that point. The new flight model has been applied to all planes in Flight Simulator, which includes changes to the aerodynamics for the horizontal and vertical tail. Asobo state that these will now behave more like wing surfaces and no longer like flat surfaces. A summary of the flight model changes is as follows: improved elevator and rudder authority for all planes, improved pitch and yaw stability for all planes, improved weights and balance for all planes, and improved stall behaviour for all aircraft. The new build also includes some improvements to the camera. For full details on the patch notes, do take a look at the link in the video description. Work also continues on the software development kit, with a new version being released next week. Some new samples have apparently been added into the SDK, but personally my thoughts here are that for those of us on the outside at least, it's a shame that we don't actually get to see the SDK in action. But that said, it's great to know nonetheless that the kit is being continuously worked on and improved. Finally, at the end of this week's update, Asobo added the current feedback snapshot, which we've already seen in previous updates and doesn't currently show any changes. That then brings us to an end of this video. As always, thanks for watching, and I'll catch you guys and girls next time.